Welcome back to another episode of What's New in Beauty. My name is Nia Lee, and I'm super excited to have you guys here. If it's your first time tuning in, this is the podcast where I love to talk about all new and exciting things happening in the beauty industry and, of course, give my 2 cents take on it. Well, first off, I just want to jump right in, as I always do, and talk about a brand that I actually talked about months ago, I think maybe now almost a year ago on What's New in Beauty here, and it's all about the Honey Pot finally being acquired. And when I say finally, I said this in my last previous episode where I talked more about this, which was all about the Honey Pot and how there was a whole drama, about them not being Black owned and people saying that they're sellouts and X, Y, and Z. Well, hey, they've actually now sold, or their majority stake has now been acquired by Compass Diversified. And that's pretty much what it is for the Honey Pot right now. And this actually comes off of the back of a lot of investment firms and essentially beauty conglomerates acquiring companies. Recently, Dr. Barbara Stern was actually snapped up as well. And now the plant-derived feminine care brand, the Honey Pot, which we all know and love, which if you don't know the Honey Pot, they're essentially an Atlanta-based wellness company or sexual, feminine health, menstrual, consumer health, wellness, all that good stuff. And they've honestly had such an amazing run since they kind of started back in 2012. And today they can be found in more than 300. Oh no, wow, I'm going a little further here, but who knows with this this acquiring that they're actually going to be more. But I mean, I put that in the air for them, but they're actually now today in more than 33,000 stores across the US, including Walmart, Target, CVS, Walgreens, and their annual sales are understood to be around 100 and is that 100? Yeah, 120 million. Go Honey Pot, let's go. But yeah, they've essentially been acquired by Compass Diversified for 380 million. And as a part of the deal, the Honey Pot Co. will continue to be headed by its current leadership team, and existing owners and management will retain a significant minority stake in the company. Previous investors in the brand include New Voices Fund and VMG Partners. And if you didn't know, New Voices Fund is actually owned by I believe the same team or possibly the same figure who actually owned Shea Moisture. And of course, he ended up selling Shea Moisture and X, Y, and Z, but just wanted to give you guys a little bit of game up on that. So Beatrice Dixon, the Honey Pot's co-founder, will actually continue to lead the company in her current role as Chief Executive Officer, aka the CEO, and Chief Innovation Officer, and which she spoke to, we believe that this partnership will not only enable us to sustain our commitment to innovation and education, but will also empower us to continue cultivating a movement rooted in community and self-care. Plans for the brand include global expansion, beginning with Canada, and entering new categories. And essentially later this year, they're actually looking to launch body care with body washes and body lotions, which is actually a really smart thing. And I love to see when brands decide that they want to kind of venture out. And, we have to have a bigger conversation about, when a brand does get acquired, and that means they now have more capital and now have more opportunities to do different things. This is kind of the step that needs to happen, because I talk about this all the time on this podcast about how brands, a lot of brands are just here to come into the mainstream, or, maybe start off as indie and work their way up until they kind of get that mainstream success. And that typically usually does happen when they maybe enter into a big retailer, or again, when they do have investors or VC funding or anything in relation to that. So for them making this decision to, one, expand into Canada and have global expansion, but then on top of that, enter into new categories such as body care and body washes, body lotions, all that jazz, which in itself is a huge space to be in, especially with, Naturium blowing up with their body washes and certain things like that. Like, we've just seen brands who have the ability to excel, right? I've talked about this before, about Hero Cosmetics that got acquired. I think their rate was a little bit over 600, or maybe a little bit more than 600 million. But either way, like, this is kind of the ideal situation for anybody that starts a brand. It's, let me build something so much with everything that I have, with any sort of funding or any sort of help, and then, possibly have the opportunity for our brand to essentially be acquired, but still own stake in the company, but just maybe, technically at a minority. But it's really interesting because, even throughout all of this, and I'll talk a little bit more from the article from WWD, but I wanted to also speak to a little bit about how, even previously when I talked about this, and I kind of, went in last time because I understand where everybody's coming from when it comes to, a Black-owned brand, particularly a Black women-owned brand that caters to primarily a Black women audience across the board, who wants this certain level of connection to a Black-owned business and supporting a Black-owned business. And there's a whole, makeup of that, particularly from the lens of Black women, because we're incredibly loyal and we love to shop and we love to support, right? I mean, I was just reading an article recently about how, Black American consumers are going to spend like $70 million. So just not even, I would be really interested to know how much of women that is versus men, but I have no doubt that it's probably primarily women because we just like to consume. We like to buy things, and that's kind of the nature of the game, which is why a brand like the Honey Pot can be as successful as it is. However, when we get into conversations about, acquiring companies and majority stakes and ownership and, all these different conversations that happen, which, if we want to keep it a buck, isn't always something that gets talked about or is even normalized, particularly when it comes to Black-owned businesses and Black brands and just, what that idea of looking like in the space of especially CPG and also beauty. There is a certain level of, kind of wanting things to keep into the family, wanting things to stay in the lens of a Black-owned lens or a Black women-owned lens or certain things like that. But just because this company is being acquired now for, an amazing amount of money, which I've heard some people say, it definitely could have been more and X, Y, and Z, this is now going to allow them to expand even further. And you always get into situations as well, too, where people will say, well, why do you need to expand? Why do you need to do this? But it's like, everybody's in business. Excuse me. Most people who are in business for profit, right? If you want to obviously run a nonprofit business, which you can, that can be as successful as it is. But majority of us are in business for profit. And in a situation like this, when you have somebody who sees what you're doing and is saying, hey, we want to invest in you and we also want to take your brand to the next level, that is an amazing thing. But I think the thing that always gets a little bit murky is possibly the lack of education behind it, the lack of business acumen behind it, the lack of understanding, how all these things are coming together. And then the biggest thing that I saw particularly, and I talked about this on the last episode where I talked about, everyone getting upset about the Honey Pot selling out and X, Y, and Z, is that everybody is upset about the possibility. And when I say the possibility, I really say this, truthfully, is because this does happen often where a brand does get acquired by a company, whether it's a conglomerate or an investment company or whatnot. And typically what happens is certain things are always change, whether it's formula, whether it's packaging, certain people saying that the products aren't good anymore, that they're possibly even more, detrimental to us. And not for nothing. I mean, I'm not going to get too much into it, but when it particularly speaks to Black people, but also Black women, there is a level of possible distrust that we have with certain companies who, we know have been the number one thing that maybe, let's just say, Black women have bought for years and years and years. And then a study comes out that says this product that we've been using for years, or this thing that we've been purchasing, or, this thing that we've been, just so accustomed to is actually very dangerous for us. And obviously that came out recently about how, things like perms and relaxers and certain things like that were causing a lot of, cancer for Black women specifically. And so, I mean, if we go, again, I'm not going to go too much into the history of, relaxers and perm and, Black women feeling like they got to do that in order to, be accepted in the workplace and X, Y, and Z. And again, this is something that's been around for decades, possibly even centuries at this point. So there's something to be said, and I understand the frustration. I am possibly even understand the negativity. I do understand from that perspective of somebody saying, when a Black-owned business gets acquired, the formula is never the same. The feel of it is never the same. And I've also worked for companies where they were Black owned or Black women owned. And let's just say they were acquired by an investment company or a huge beauty conglomerate, and the brand just didn't have the same zest it used to have. And people could tell. And one thing about Black people, but particularly Black women, is we are going to be vocal about it. And we are going to, we're going to talk our shit and be like, listen, this is not the brand that we love. This is not the brand that we signed up for, and we're noticing those changes. And so again, I'll get, like I said, I'll get back into the WWD article, but I just wanted to speak to that because I understand the frustration. I understand maybe, some of the negativity, the side eyeing, people obviously wanted to congratulate, but maybe possibly even feeling discouraged that, hey, like if this happens, what does this mean? You know what I mean? But I will say if the brand stays the same and it seems that, the team, the leadership team, Beatrice are still going to be a part of the brand and the company, here's the possibility that hopefully they don't sell their shares as well too. But also like the reality of the situation is if they do sell their shares, they do sell their shares. Like, I guess I understand from a certain perspective of being upset and certain things like that. But I'm of the catalyst that like, if I don't like a brand anymore, or I'm not into a brand anymore, or I notice the brand has changed, it's not in my MO to go to their comment section and berate them about how much they're sellouts or about how their products suck and, whatever the situation is. I'm just going to stop buying from them. Like, I'm just going to stop buying from them because there's literally so many brands that exist. And I'm always of the camp where I'll say, the industry isn't saturated. And I more so kind of look at it from a marketing perspective, but I do understand that there are so many options. And so, yes, in a way, the industry is saturated. There are 1,000 other, sexual wellness, sexual health, feminine care brands that exist. You know what I mean? And I understand from, a particular lens where, yes, you can buy these products in Target and CVS and Walmart and, Ray Tay, but at the same time, there are other brands that exist. So if you don't like the Honey Pot anymore, or you think that their products are, changing and maybe not in the direction that you want it to go, just stop supporting them. Like, that's really just kind of my thought process with it. But it's like, if you are okay with, the changes and, a brand like this who understands innovation, a brand like this who understands kind of being, doing their own thing to the beat of their own drum, especially with the launch of body care and body wash and body lotions. I mean, I totally see how people will probably be like, I'll give it a side eye, but I'm still going to try it out, in which the business still gets to win because you're buying their product. So I always say, if you have any problems with any brands, instead of berating them, the founders, their Instagram pages, their social media pages, whatever it might be, just stop supporting the brand. So that's really just my 2 cents on it. But going back to the WWE article, Dixon continues and speaks to, the other thing that we're really focused on is destigmatizing personal wellness, because every human should have access to that. The deal is going to give us some more opportunities to be able to gain more relationships with more customers. And so again, from that perspective, it's like, hey, we want to be bigger. And I understand it, because these are conversations that I have with my clients as well too, who have dreams and aspirations about launching into retail and being the next big thing and being a household name. It's like, unfortunately, and I've seen people say this in different spaces where, you can't be, unfortunately, the next biggest thing if you are only, let's just going to say, be an indie brand or, only cater to Black people. And I understand it. I think the people being like, oh, well, you're only catering to Black people when you guys don't have anything in the game and we're going to support you in this, Y, and Z. And the minute you guys get big and you guys get sold and you're this and you're that, you forget about us. And so I would say, even just to the Honey Pot, and I'm sure, again, the fact that their team is still very prevalent in everything that they're doing and are very tapped in or very aware. I mean, I literally see them in comment sections. I literally see them answering, comments and replying back and really kind of being in the thick of all of it with people. So they are very much aware that this is going to be a situation where, it is going to be a little bit dicey, let's just say maybe for the first year or the first 2 years or whatnot. But I just hope and pray, along with everybody else, is that if this is what their mission is and this is what their why is, then that's what's going to be the focus. But let's not forget about the individuals who put you honestly into this space in the first place. Because one thing I will say about Black people, we are incredibly supportive of brands that we love and that we like and that are household names to us. And so I think the thing that always kind of happens is there's always a feeling of feeling forgotten. And I get it. If you are a brand that heavily caters to this community, and the minute you get an opportunity to move to the side, it does kind of come off a certain way. But from a business perspective, I get it. They want to reach more people. They believe that every human, not just Black humans, but every human should have access to personal wellness, particularly in this space of feminine care and sexual health and sexual wellness and so on and so forth. So I think across the board, if that's what their why is, that's what their mission is, that's what their vision is, who are we to get in the way of that? And not for nothing, it's not our business to even worry about, y'all. Like I said, if you are upset about this move, if you are upset about Compass Diversified acquiring the Honey Pot for $380 million, a brand that literally just started from an idea back in 2012, and maybe you haven't built something for yourself, again, maybe have these conversations and ask yourself, like, why do I feel this way? Or why am I upset? Or, whatever the situation is. But as somebody in business, as somebody who works with beauty brands, lifestyle brands, wellness brands, this is a win, because this is a true testament to building something that really matters and somebody wanting to assist you with that. And if you know anything about building a brand, particularly in this beauty industry, in this beauty space, wellness, lifestyle, the whole gambit, it is hard to build something and be as successful and make $120 million every year and still have, people being interested enough to invest in you and want to amplify your business even further. And so just closing out, the CEO of Compass Diversified said that Beatrice and her team have done an amazing job building the Honey Pot Co. into a leading feminine care brand. We believe they have tremendous growth opportunities on the horizon, and we are so excited to provide the Honey Pot with the resources necessary to bring it closer to its goal of serving more people by being the #1 better for you personal care brand in the world. And the deal is expected to close in February. So congrats to the Honey Pot. Congrats to all parties involved. I think it's really, really cool that, again, they created something with an idea. And I talked about this the last episode where I spoke about, not the last episode, but the one where I was talking about the Honey Pot. I talked about how I learned about the Honey Pot years ago, like on a random T-Pain show where he was highlighting, small indie Black businesses. And I've literally been following their journey since then. So to see what they've been able to accomplish, I respect everything that, Beatrice has been able to do, her and her team. I also think, particularly in this space, people can be very highly critical of Black women, particularly successful Black business owners. I mean, we're seeing it now with the Fearless Fund and everything that's going on with them and, them being essentially ostracized. So it's just, again, even when we have a conversation about venture capitalists, and VC funding, or, it particularly, when it comes to Black-owned businesses, particularly Black women-owned businesses, and how, they don't even, and when I say they, I also include myself in this, like, we don't even receive, I think the number is like 0.00, around that. Maybe it's a little bit higher, but it's not that high, y'all. So the simple fact that they can even get this opportunity, like when I see Black-owned brands get these kind of opportunities, to me, it is a testament to, one, what they've been able to build, but it also is a testament to, you having an understanding about the market and wanting to build something that's innovative. And a lot of the Black-owned brands, particularly Black women-owned brands that I see, are incredibly innovative. So to me, it's like, yeah, like this just makes sense. This makes sense. And then also from their perspective of, Beatrice had never said that she wasn't up to or didn't want to eventually sell the company. I think this is actually the thing that a lot of business owners want to do, but because we're in this small business boom and everybody's an entrepreneur and everybody's like small business this, small business that, there's this idea that you need to have your business for years and years and years without any help and bootstrapping every single thing. But it's just not the reality for today. And particularly, it might not just be your reality. Like if you have reality, if you have visions, or, you have if you have dreams of launching in a Sephora or multiple, drugstores or multiple retailers, or if you want to get into different categories, you're going to need the capital to do that. You know what I mean? And obviously, yes, you can have customers purchase your products, but there's so much more that goes into it. And so I'm not going to ramble on too much, but like I said, congrats to the honeypot. Now, next up, I wanted to talk about, this, it's Black History Month. So this is going to be a Black women focused episode. So just want to let y'all know that right off the jump. I have to talk about Pat McGrath. I have to talk about Pat McGrath. I have to talk about just the visionary that is Pat McGrath. I mean, everyone was talking about the Maison Margiela show, the Spring Haute Couture show, and just how everything was done from the gowns, John Golly, just everything. Like everything about it was absolutely amazing. The models, the gowns. But the thing that really, really got everybody in a tizzy for the last, I want to say 2 weeks now, it's probably even 3 weeks now, is Pat McGrath's, again, legendary makeup artist, legendary innovator, legendary just human being in the space who, has consistently, been in a partnership with Galliano throughout his career. And, again, her makeup artistry and what she's been able to do is just insane. I got to take a beat for that. Like, again, if you are not aware of Pat McGrath Labs, make sure that you're aware of Pat McGrath Labs, because I'm going to be talking about them throughout this. But of course, everybody was just, insanely mesmerized by the makeup, this kind of, hyper shiny glaze skin glass, it's mimicking this kind of smooth, reflective quality. And, according to allure.com, this was the talk of the town. Like this was, everything that everybody wanted to talk about. Like, yes, of course, the show itself was beautiful. I actually watched the show on YouTube as well, just to see what all the hubbub was about, because obviously, yes, I knew everybody was talking about the actual makeup artistry, but I actually wanted to see the show myself. And I'm not typically a fashion girly. I stay in my lane of beauty, but it was really cool just to see. But like I said, everybody and their mom was talking about this kind of, having the skin be coated in this kind of glazed donut, but like it feels like it feels like porcelain. It feels like porcelain skin, baby doll skin. Like there's some sort of, thing to it. But all that to be said, everybody and their mom wanted to know how Pat McGrath made this look. And so what I thought was really, really cool, and just, a testament to Black women in any kind of space that they're in. I'm a Black woman myself, so I'm a high Black woman up just throughout this, because, we are it. But particularly Pat McGrath, what was really amazing was that, she was really sparking innovation, I think, in the beauty industry and amongst the beauty community that I haven't actually really seen in a while. Like, obviously, we've been seeing, beauty brands and, things like TikTok, try to coin certain trends, strawberry makeup this, blueberry nails that, cold girl, like just trying to grasp for straws, right? Like, I look at that as kind of grasping for straws, because at the end of the day, we don't have honest like obviously now beauty is really, everybody can look at beauty and do different things in beauty and, kind of make their name, especially when social media is there, especially when TikTok is there and trends come up and down literally every second of every day. But what I saw that Pat McGrath did to the beauty community has to be like documented, because the way everybody tried to recreate this look in their own way. One thing that was really interesting to note was that Pat didn't actually like show anybody how she was able to create this look. Like, obviously, of course, Pat McGrath Labs, her makeup brand, which is stellar, by the way. Obviously, we were talking, she was showcasing, how to, get the look kind of underneath before she kind of showcases how to put together this kind of glassy porcelain glazed skin look. But she didn't actually initially tell anybody. So everybody and their mom, makeup artists, influencers, creators, you name it. I even saw journalists kind of getting into it as well, who were sharing their thoughts, sharing their opinions, sharing their speculations, really trying to get to the root of how she essentially created this, because she was super coy. She was super, pretty much like, hey, all things will be revealed. Like, she was definitely teasing people to go ahead and do this. But what I thought was really, 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 really cool was that, like I said, she waited. She waited to kind of show everybody how she went about actually creating this look. And like I said, according to allure.com, there were, theses and hypotheses about how she was able to go ahead and do this. And what was really cool was makeup artist Erin Parsons had a different hypothesis based on insight from a makeup artist who worked on the show, that the effect was a custom mix made with a water-based formula. And this is actually what allowed Parsons to conclude that McGrath applied Freeman's renewing peel-off gel mask. And as it is a sound theory, partially because models were seen peeling their faces off, which I also thought was really, really cool as well too. And so Parsons actually tested it on TikTok. It really felt almost kind of like this mid 2000s, kind of, again, like I said, almost like, I want to say even just spooky, but kind of like cool and sinister. And like I said, there's a certain element about it that felt really soft to it as well too. So showcasing all of this with this airbrushing technique and showing how it was done, Parsons showed that on TikTok and again got everybody into a blaze. But 8 days after the show, McGrath hosted a TikTok live masterclass, which is genius, by the way, where she finally revealed that the high shine skin was a result of a custom concoction dreamed up by McGrath and her team, combining 4 different peel-off masks, including Parsons' prediction, the Freeman's Cucumber Peel-Off Gel Face Mask, the Cubella Pineapple Peel-Off Mask, the Prout Calendula peel-off mask, and 1 mystery mask in a white bottle, as well as a Skin Illustrator clear gloss that was blended with distilled water. And McGrath actually said this on the live stream: we mixed together so many different products. It was a real scientific work in progress. As well, to achieve that waxy finish, the artist sprayed on 8 layers, that's crazy, of the mixture using an airbrush tool, drying each layer with a blow dryer before applying the next. She goes on to say, with each layer, you got a vivid brightness, and the entire look took 2 hours to complete, though McGrath says that the ideation began 3 years ago. So I just, to me, like, just right off the bat, can we just have a moment of silence for the innovation, y'all? Like, to me, this is really what beauty is about. This is really what makeup is about. Like, to me, I feel like the beauty industry, makeup, whatever you want to call it, has honestly been taken over by skincare and wellness. Like, we've just seen it, particularly during the pandemic, but even post-pandemic. I mean, the amount of skincare brands that have launched have been insane. But as things have kind of, slowly but surely, COVID is still obviously happening in its own sense. But as, the particularly fear-mongering that, kind of was going on around that, 2021, 2022, as that has kind of died off, with 2020, near probably the latter half of 2022-ish to 2023, and now we're in 2024, makeup has really kind of taken a bit of a back seat because so many people haven't been interested in experimenting with makeup for a while. And I actually spoke about this as well too, I believe, on Instagram, BTW, if you're not following me on Instagram, at Socially Savvy Nia. I added into the show notes, of course, every episode. But I talked about this, I believe, on my stories about how makeup is definitely making a comeback. And we've definitely been seeing that with, like, tinted lip glosses. And we've also been seeing it with foundations. I mean, there's so many brands that have launched foundations, I want to believe. Like, I mean, the most recent one was Ami Collet that did theirs. Of course, Tower 28 did their concealer, and, we've been just seeing so many brands get into makeup again, right? I saw Basma Beauty, they're going to be launching blush. So makeup is definitely making a comeback, y'all. But also this makeup that feels very creative and almost kind of experimental. I feel like, we clean girled and soft glammed ourselves out, which, like, there's definitely a place for that. But we want to get back to, everybody kind of wearing makeup again. You know what I mean? And I've seen this more so on TikTok more than anything, where people are kind of like, listen, what happened to us wearing colorful eyeshadows? What happened to us about, experimenting with different blushes and, doing different things with our eyebrows and trying out different lipsticks and really having fun? Like I get it. Everybody wants to have great skin. I think that's always really kind of the basis for really great makeup. But if some of us don't have great skin, which, I like to think a lot of us don't, makeup was always that thing that kind of allowed us to say, even if I do have dark spots, even if I do have hyperpigmentation, even if my skin isn't the most, quote unquote glorious, at least I can experiment with makeup and have fun. But like I said, since the skincare boom kind of happened and, makeup kind of took a back seat, it never really felt like there was any space to be experimental. But I feel like what Pat McGrath did with this look and everybody getting into it and everybody, giving their 2 cents and trying things out and experimenting again, I feel like it really is the testament to what the beauty community should have really always been about, which is trying things out, being innovative, having fun, and understanding that if you got to mix, if you got to mix a custom concoction of 4 different peel masks and have, a technique for adding on, 8 different layers to get this look and it taking 2 hours, like this takes me back to just like OG beauty, community. Like this really takes me back to that. I was also going to say like beauty guru as well too. But again, Pat McGrath is a legend within herself. So, and something also I wanted to point out here as well, is that she also teased that she's actually going to be releasing her own Pat McGrath Labs porcelain skin glazing product in the coming months, which I think is genius. Like if we want to have a conversation about just marketing, y'all, like first off, Pat McGrath, being a part of this is already iconic, right? But then her doing this look and then giving us the inside scoop, the TikTok live scoop about how she did it. And then also now to launch that product. Like I want to know if there's a wait list already, because I have no doubt thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are going to sign up for this wait list for this product because of how crazy this is. And I hope they are really strategic with how they are choosing to really roll this out. I mean, I honestly would have been, I honestly felt like this probably would have been the perfect time for her to roll it out, because with the hype and all the impressions and all the excitement with, the show and her showing us the technique and so on and so forth. But I think this was also just a great way to tease it. It was a great way to bring it back. And I'll be really, really excited to see what the rollout of all of this really is, because it's just genius. Like if we just want to have a conversation about, again, Pat McGrath and just being a part of this, but then on the other hand of it, coming out with this product about this thing that everybody and their mom was trying out and adding in their own creativity to it. I mean, it just shows you how much the industry is craving innovation and originality and experimentation and just so much more that can kind of come from makeup, you know what I mean? And so I just, again, congrats to Pat McGrath, congrats to the team, congrats to Maison Margiela, Galliano. There's just like everybody involved, because you can really tell that this was kind of rolling out the red carpet for Pat. And so for me, I'm just really grateful to see that everybody just got excited about makeup again. To me, this is kind of really what the beauty industry should always really be about. I mean, I think sometimes we focus so much on the consumerism on all of it and not enough on experimenting and having fun and understanding that like some of these looks that we're seeing take work and take innovation and take also you having fun, but also experimenting and trying out new things. So I think Pat, who better than to get us all excited about makeup again, and also for her new product that is going to be launching as well too. I thought it was a perfect runway. Congrats to everybody involved, because I'm obsessed. I have no words. I was like, I have to talk about Pat, because more so than anything, like to me, this is really the testament to, again, just Black women just being innovative in the space. I mean, we just have to call it. And last but not least, talking about Black women being innovative in the space, I have to talk about Miss Beyoncé Knowles Carter entering the hair care world with Cécred, her hair care brand. Now, she teased that she was going to be launching this brand, I believe, a few months ago. And she announced this late Tuesday that she's actually going to be launching her brand, Cécred. She made the announcement on Instagram with a video laden with meaning for Beehive members and a caption, "Hair is sacred." And what I thought was really, really cool about this rollout, I mean, it was a little cryptic, I will say, but that's like Beyonce is such a multifaceted artist. Like, she is somebody who can get into her, R&B cultural bag, but then she can also get in her dance bag. She can also get in her country bag. She can also get in her mainstream pop bag if she wants. So I think she's definitely in this era, and it kind of almost reminds me of a little bit of Formation, the album itself, how raw and gritty it was, like the teaser and everything. It felt really sacred. Like, if I want to call it, like, the name of her brand and everything that looks very similar to her namesake, like, it felt very on par with that. And I hope we can see more of kind of that realness and that authenticity that I feel like really truly is Beyonce when we have a conversation about, outside of the entertainer and whatnot, like the mom, the girl, the woman who she is today. And just seeing how it all came together, I thought was really, really cool. Now, the brand is actually set to launch February 20th, and it actually, if you go to their website, cécred.com, it directs you to seeing, of course, the footage. You can add your email, you can add your updates, all that stuff. I definitely added my email there because I don't know if I'm going to buy the products, but I just want to see the rollout. You know me, y'all. I'm a social media marketing girly. I love to see the rollout on social. I love to see the rollout, even possibly from a music perspective as well, too. I mean, I don't think we're going to get any music because, she literally just finished like her entire world tour last year, and she gave us so much music. But I thought it was really, really cool, how she just kind of slowly but surely rolled it out kind of in this teaser fashion. But I have no doubt, literally February 20th is in 2 weeks. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks. But going back to the article here on the Washington Post. Now, she didn't actually divulge what products are going to be sold or where. But what I thought was actually really interesting about this is if you actually go to the trademark, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, she actually has a trademark application for Cécred, which is a Delaware-based company. And it is actually, these are the following products that she's essentially trademarked Cécred to sell: cosmetic preparations for hair care, candles, medicated hair care items, including vitamins and hair growth stimulants, electric hair styling tools, microneedle, dermal rollers, gua sha tools, jewelry boxes, cosmetic bags and cases, hair brushes, combs, pillows, sleeping garments, including headwear and sleep masks. And I also wanted to go over to Justia Trademarks because this is actually the one where it shows you the different classes and goes into each, particular application of the trademark and what it is that she's going to be focusing on, because there was other elements that I had seen here as well too that I thought was really, really interesting. Bleeping preparations and other substances for laundry use, cleaning polish, scouring and abrasive preparations, soaps, perfumey essential oils, cosmetics, of course, hair lotions. We've also got, let's see what we have here. For a different class, lubricants. We've also got fuels, candles, wicks. Okay, yeah, that works. Pharmaceutical, veterinarian, and sanitary preparations. We've got a ton of that there. Okay, all right. Dental wax. Okay, interesting too. Hand tools. We had seen that. Razors. Okay, very interesting. We've also got surgical, dental, medical, and then we've also got the veterinarian apparatus. Okay, I'm interested in that. Jewelry, we've also got other areas of precious stones, travel bags, umbrellas. We've also got, what else do we have here? Leather and imitations of leather. I didn't even know that was a thing. Holy moly. Household and kitchen utensils as well. Glassware. Ooh, glassware. That's exciting. Again, household and kitchen utensils. We said that. Textile goods, clothing, footwear, headgear. We've also got lace and embroidery, ribbons, braids, buttons, hooks, eyes, pins, needles, artificial flowers, lace and embroidery. Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, like just listing out all those things, y'all. This is very interesting to see what Miss Knowles has up her sleeve. Like, I'm really, 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 really interested because to me, it's like whatever Beyonce does come out with, and I saw a couple people, saying, listen, why would we buy hair care from Beyonce when we've never seen her hair? And I feel like it's a little ignorant to kind of say that because yeah, let's just say, yes, Beyonce, we've probably maybe never seen her real hair, or we've only seen her wear wigs, or so on and so forth. Or she's essentially known for having unclockable hair. People have always wanted to, say, oh, is her hair's not real. She's shaking her hair all over the place. Who does Beyonce's hair? Beyonce's hair has always been a topic of conversation. Let's just, right off the bat, Beyonce's hair has consistently always been a topic of conversation. But what I thought was really, really interesting was that a lot of people were making those comments and saying, why would we buy hair care from her when we've never seen her natural hair? And to me, I was kind of like, that's a little bit of a side eye because y'all buy products from brands and companies and people where, you are a Black woman, but the owner of these companies are not Black, let alone women. A lot of them are actually owned by white men. So I thought it was a little disingenuous. I thought it was a little bit passive. And again, I just see this happen so much where it comes from Black women specifically, or it comes particularly the criticism is for Black women. So I don't like that. I think we're judging things before we even get there. I mean, if you don't want to buy the products, then don't buy the products, right? But I thought something was really interesting was a bunch of people saying, ain't nobody going to buy that. Ain't nobody going to support that. But, somebody was like, the Beehive will. And that's really who I think Beyonce is probably even making this product for when she came out with her perfume. I think it was the same deal. She was definitely making that for her community. And it kind of seems the same way with this as well, too. I mean, if you look at the marketing of it as well, too, of course, she has Blue Ivy in there, which I thought was really dope and cool. And it feels almost kind of aesthetically pleasing as well. You can tell this is going to be a very elevated hair care line, which I think is really cool. And people were also speaking to, teasers of certain products in the actual Renaissance documentary that she put out, showing different bottles, certain things like that. And something that I also want to speak to as well is when she had actually kind of announced that she was going to be launching this brand a few months ago, actually, she wrote this kind of quote unquote note, if you will. She said, it's always been my dream. It's always been a dream of mine to create a hair care line. That's why I'm so proud to share Cécred, which celebrates and honors the wisdom in our hair. I'm excited that you can now, what does she say here? That you are now part of this community and can help to build an intimate and powerful space where we can share our journeys, our hair secrets, and protect all things sacred. So I thought that right off the bat, I think is just a really perfect way to tie everything in. And I think more so than anything, it speaks to where she wants to go with this. I mean, again, we've seen Beyonce go through so many different things, right? And I think a lot of people can be critical about her in this kind of consumer, packaged goods space, or, starting her own brand, because people have said, oh, she hasn't been the most successful with Darion, or she hasn't been the most successful with Ivy Park. But I think when it comes to beauty, I think when it comes to hair, I think this is an opportunity for her to really give this all that she has, especially because this seems to be the thing that she clearly wants to focus on currently after, of course, the world tour and Renaissance and how much of a movement that essentially created. So right off the bat, again, congrats to her and the team and just everything that they're doing. But like I said, I want people to, before they get critical, just see what's going on. That's honestly my thought process. Before you want to sit there and cast judgment, which not for nothing, I really do think the people who are casting judgment are really just kind of wanting to be antagonistic and negative. You don't even know what it is yet. And I know y'all aren't going to the trademark and reading any of the information either. So it's one of those things where it's before you sit there and get overly critical, make a decision and then choose to buy or not buy and move on. But, we live in the era now where everybody has to air their grievances and give their 2 cents on things that, they don't really need to. But what I thought was really, really cool is just looking at the advert here. It felt elevated. It feels, like I said, very similar to Formation. It feels like there's definitely going to be a lot of Afrocentric, elements to this. It feels like there's going to also be more storytelling with this as well, too. It feels gritty. It feels real. It seems like she's going to be tapping, some prominent individuals as well to kind of, put this forth. And what I'll be really interested to see is the influencers that get picked for PR. I'll be really interested to see if she's going to go for like kind of the staple, quote unquote, 5 to 10 beauty influencers or haircare influencers that everybody and their mom is, particularly always choosing for PR and certain things like that, or if she's going to be a lot more intentional with this release and, possibly maybe even send it out to some of her biggest fans, maybe even some of her, members of her beehive. I'll be really interested to see how she curates all of this, but I can tell it's genuine. I can tell that's the look of it. It doesn't come off as anything more than like elevated, sophisticated, and also true and real. And something that I do like about Beyonce is, say whatever you want to say about her, she knows her history, she knows her references, and she knows her artistry, and she understands what it is that she wants to create. And, people will say, oh, she hasn't been successful with this brand and this brand, but one thing I can attest is that she's going to try. Like, she is going to try. She's going to give it her best shot. And I'll be really interested, like I said, to see the rollout further for Cécred, and how it all comes together, and also how much of involvement she'll have in this. Because I think what's really interesting about celebrity beauty brands just off the jump is, you can always tell the difference between brands who need the celebrity there versus brands that don't. Like, I always use the example that, Fenty Beauty today can really stand on its legs without Rihanna. Like, yes, Rihanna is the extra cherry on top when it comes to Fenty. But does Rihanna need to be present in order for Fenty to be successful? No. Also, I mean, they're also under LVMH, they're sold at Sephora, so they really don't need Rihanna for the brand to be successful. They're already in a space where Fenty Beauty, Fenty Skin can kind of be successful and is successful without Rihanna having to be present every single step of the way. Now, with a brand like Rare Beauty, although they're still relatively a new brand, they've been out for 4 years, Rare Beauty seems like the brand that if Selena Gomez is not attached to Rare gets lost in the sauce of the quote unquote saturated beauty industry, where brands like Say and brands like Summer Fridays and brands like Ilia already exist and already do similar things that Rare Beauty does. So it's like, where does Rare doesn't really come out with anything, or hasn't really come out with anything that has been innovative. They've just kind of put things into the space that they kind of know that will work. And the only thing that's really been innovative or possibly popular about the brand are their blushes, which they originally came out with when they launched. And so I thought it was really interesting because I talk about how like I got on the Rare Beauty blushes in 2020 when the brand launched, and I knew they were a hit. I was shocked, a couple years later when everybody and their mom were talking about the blushes and were making a big deal about it. But I thought it was cool that like, yeah, we had blushes that were pigmented and that were great. But recently, Juvia's Place came out with pigmented blushes that were very similar to the Rare Beauty blushes. And that caused a bunch of controversy and people saying, why are you guys complaining about the Juvia's Place when y'all weren't complaining about the Rare Beauty? And they were both incredibly pigmented. So you get into a situation where, again, brands can exist. Celebrity beauty brands, they're here to stay, y'all. I don't know what to tell y'all. Like, if a brand... if a celebrity beauty brand bothers you, just get used to it, or like mute it, or, say you're not interested, because they're here to stay. And Beyonce, who's been really, really successful at being Beyonce, she's going to launch brands. So if you don't care or you're not interested, then just don't buy and, move on. But at the same time, celebrity beauty brands are definitely a dime a dozen. And to me, this seems like definitely the next phase is something that she wants to focus on. I also kind of say it kind of sort of reminds me of Pattern Beauty, just a little bit, only just because Pattern Beauty kind of has a similar kind of, strip backed, very artistic, again, very focused on, Black people and Black experiences. And also, again, really speaking to hair in this kind of gentle and almost, authentic way that I think a lot of hair care, particularly textured hair care brands do. But again, Pattern sits in the textured beauty hair care space. So I wonder if Cécred will also sit into that space as well too, or are they looking to kind of cater to all? But again, looking at the advert, seeing everything that they're coming up with, knowing also Beyonce's history of, being a very proud Black woman from, the South who understands references and understands culture and understands Black people, and what it is that we want and what it is that we gravitate towards and what we're into, I can totally see this being a brand that, yes, has a lens that's focused, but also it is global. So like I said, congrats to all parties involved. I love the rollout so far. I'm sure I'll definitely keep you guys posted on my thoughts on more things as, the launch comes together for February 20th. But, as you can see, Black women are just killing it. It's, we're only 9 days into Black History Month, y'all. And to me, I think Black women are absolutely killing it. Like everything from the Honey Pot to Pat McGrath to Beyoncé Cécred, like this is just a testament to us just being the blueprint. Like that's just how I look at all of this. And so, like I said, congratulations to all parties involved. I'll be really interested to see how everything comes together with the Honey Pot and their body washes and Pat McGrath launching her new product off of this excitement of, this glazed porcelain skin doll look. And of course, Beyoncé Cécred, that looks like it's going to be really dope and just intentional, but also aesthetically pleasing. So with all that being said, y'all, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of What's New in Beauty, and I'll catch you in the next one.